This clip, I think, is really fascinating. Trump accidentally admitted that he thinks Biden is going to win the election. So this is a classic Freudian slip in the middle of his safe space town hall with Sean Hannity where he pitches him softballs all night. And he just it just falls out. It just falls out. Watch.
So crazy what's happening. Here's a guy doesn't talk. Nobody hears him. Whenever he does talk, he can't put two sentences together. I don't want to be nice or unnice, okay? But, I mean, the man can't speak. And he's going to be your president because some people don't love me, maybe. And, you know, all I'm doing is doing my job. Don't forget, before the China plague came in, and it's a China plague, before that came in, we had the best job numbers we've ever had. We had the best economy we've ever had.
All right, so first I want to address that second point he made, the last point he made there, where he says, listen, before the China plague, the Wuhan virus, as I call it, before that, everything was going so well, everything was amazing. Well, no, it wasn't. You know, we still had a country where people were losing their health care. We still had a country where about 80% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. You know, we still had a country where all the old problems from the previous administration existed in this administration, like the endless wars, like the crumbling infrastructure. So it's not true that everything's great. But what he means is, what he's talking about is low unemployment rate, high stock market. Low unemployment rate, high stock market. That's what he means. And he'll use that as what he thinks is the main indicator of how well everybody's doing, because it's the most favorable numbers for him. Those are the ones he can tout as if it's amazing. So, and here's the main point, you don't get a mulligan when you're president. So in other words, yes, we had coronavirus hit. We had COVID-19 hit. You don't get to say, hey, before that, I think everything was great. Okay, but what about now? See, there's an admission in there. The admission is, well, we're not doing so great right now. That's the admission. The admission is, yeah, okay, before maybe I could give you some little factoids I throw at you that are misleading, but nonetheless, I'll give you something. But now, I mean, okay, fine, it's not good now. Right. Nobody would ever say, nobody would give anybody else a pass on the big crises of their time. It's like saying, well, if Obama and Biden didn't inherit the Great Recession, but they did inherit the Great Recession. They did inherit it. So you don't get to say, what if they didn't inherit it? That's not the way the world works. You can't get a mulligan. And also the idea that, well, it was beyond his control, so what do you want him to do? Okay, but there's plenty of examples around the world of policy approaches that mitigated all the downsides of the pandemic. Guys, I'll just give you two. This is the simplest thing in the world. Japan didn't shut down the economy, didn't do anything like that, didn't do anything seemingly extreme. All they have is a situation where everybody wears a mask. And you know what? Less than 1,000 people died of coronavirus over there. Less than 1,000. Just because people all wear masks. Here, we shut down the economy, had all these problems. A lot of people weren't wearing masks. We have over 120,000 deaths from COVID-19. We're reacting like a failed state. If Trump said early on, sorry, federal law, everybody's got to wear a mask, you know what would have happened? I think the left would have worn masks. Why? Because generally speaking, on more issues, the left tends to believe in science. Climate change, for example, the left, evolution, the left is more likely to believe in science. So if there's a pandemic and you say, hey, you guys got to wear a mask, my guess is the left would have said, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I don't care that it's a president who I disagree with who's telling me to do that. I'm going to do that. And the right, if Trump had said early on, the right would have been like, yes, daddy, of course we will. Why? Because they love him. The right, he's got his solid 35% base, where if Trump farts, his people are there like, yes, yes, please pass more gas in my face. Yes. So they would have done it. They would have been like, okay, cool too. So he didn't do that. He didn't do the mask thing. And in fact, they were, the government was lying about masks and how effective they are early on. And the other thing they could have done is copy what Germany did. What Germany did is they said, hey, nobody's getting fired. We're going to have people furloughed, not fired. And we're going to temporarily nationalize wages up to like 70 or 75% so that you keep getting your paycheck through the heart of this disaster. And guess what? They had an unemployment rate of, I think it was 3%, and it went up to 4%. Or excuse me, it may have been 4% and then went up to 5%. We had an unemployment rate of like 4%, which again, by the way, is BS. But nonetheless, the official number was 4%. And now The official number's like 15% or thereabouts, and the actual number's over 20%. Just those two things, masks and temporarily nationalizing wages. Then you wouldn't have to go out there and say, before Corona, I was doing okay, I think, if you look at certain metrics. No, you'd be able to say, look, as you see, we had a pandemic, everybody's getting paid, and the unemployment rate's still low, and nobody's getting the virus because everybody's wearing masks. He didn't do any of that. So instead, he botched the response 1,000 ways, and then you turn around and you're like, well, before this thing, we were doing okay. It's just so childish. So anyway, now let's get to the part with which this whole segment is about. He says, well, Biden, Sleepy Joe, he can't put two sentences together. He can't speak. By the way, that's kind of true. I think Biden's in cognitive decline. That's not to say that, that's not to say that Trump is so wonderful with words. I have the best words. I have the most amazing words. He's a clown too, and he's not smart. But I do think Biden's in cognitive decline. That's fair. But then he said, Sleepy Joe, he's going to be your president because some people maybe don't like me. He said, quote, he's going to be your president. He's going to be your president. He knows. He knows he's in trouble. See, and sometimes it's hard to tell, to be fair, with Trump, because he's such a relentless cheerleader for himself that you can't tell whether or not he really believes his own BS and he's pathological, or he kind of knows on some level he's putting on a show, but deep down he sees the reality of the situation. I think there was definitely an open question about that, as to which is it. Is he a pathological liar and he believes his own BS, or is he just kind of making excuses and deep down he knows that, he's not all that? Well, this was a flash of like, oh, he gets it. Trump, late at night, as he's watching Fox News, because that's all he does in his free time, and golfs, he's looking at those poll numbers and just, motherfucker, God damn it. Because these poll numbers are abysmal for him. I mean, it's as bad as it gets. I just saw a poll this morning, respected poller, PPP polls. They were very accurate, in the Obama years, for example. They have Biden up in Georgia. As if the election were held today, Biden would win over 350 electoral votes. He's up way more over Trump than Hillary was up over Trump. So point is, Trump's got a lot of people who are always willing to go out there and do the Trump spin, and be like, nah, fake polls, they're all fake polls, just like 2016, everybody's going to find out they're fake polls, and, Trump is really winning. We love our internal poll numbers. Trump was saying that this morning. He tweeted, we love our internal poll numbers. This fake news media is going crazy. Yeah. No, but that was a flash right there. He knows. He knows he's behind. He knows he's in trouble. And even the funny thing is, he's got all these spin doctors out there acting like, no, he's not even down. Meanwhile, he just kind of admitted right there, like, this guy's going to be your president if things don't change. Amazing. If he watched that back, he was probably horrified because he tries to hide all that stuff and act like, no, I'm a winner. I'm never down. So it looks like he snapped back into standard Trump mode after this and was going with the fake news media. By the way, I used to downplay this idea of like what happens if he loses. I used to say, everybody shut up. Of course he's going to willingly leave office. I don't know that anymore, because to him there's always an excuse. Like after the fact, there's always something he says that doesn't count. It doesn't count. And it's like, that is a terrifying impulse, because what do you do in a situation where he loses an election and then he's just like, wrong, fake election? He's already setting the table for that. In the same way that Biden's people are setting the table to blame Bernie if Biden loses, Trump is setting the table to disregard the results if he loses. This was a moment of, clarity here, Freudian slip, but I have heard him, question a lot that Democrats want to get all these illegals voting. There's a lot of voter fraud going on. The mail-in ballots are fake news. They're very fake ballots. And it's like, why do you keep talking about this? Well, he did this in 2016 too. Before the election, he was trying to set the table where if he lost, he could be like, I don't believe the election results. He was even asked about, hey, would you accept the election results, if you lose? And he was like, I'm going to keep you in suspense. We'll see. So it seems like there's a lot of that going on now too. But this was a moment of, this was a Freudian slip where I think the truth came out, where he knows he's in trouble.